if the thing you saw in the woods saw you first? Across decades and thousands of miles, Alaska, Minnesota, Texas, Ohio, people with no connection to each other describe the same presence. Not just something large, but something aware, watching, waiting, choosing when to move and when not to. And in every one of these dramatized encounters, there's one detail that never changes. It was closer than it should have been. Encounter number 1. The Giant in the Moonlight. Tanacross, Alaska, 1955. It was a quiet night in a small Alaskan village. The kind of night where the moon hangs so bright it turns darkness into something almost like daylight. 3 young girls stepped out onto a porch around 9:30 p.m., unaware that what they were about to see would stay with them for the rest of their lives. The air was unusually warm for November, almost like a Chinook wind had pushed through, and visibility stretched clearly across the village. Then one of them noticed it. At first it didn't make sense. Something standing out there in the open, too tall, too still. As their eyes adjusted, the shape became clear. A massive, man-like figure stood in the distance, towering at an estimated 12 to 13 feet tall, covered in off-white hair that reflected the moonlight. Its face and the insides of its hands were bare, contrasting sharply with the rest of its body. Fear hit instantly. One of the girls quickly told the others to cover the youngest's eyes and mouth, trying to keep her from crying out. But not before she saw it clearly. The creature wasn't facing them directly, but it knew they were there. Its head tilted slightly, and its eyes shifted sideways toward them, reacting to the faint sound of a frightened whimper. What followed wasn't panic. It didn't charge. It didn't run. It paused. For over a minute, the creature stood completely still, listening, watching, aware of them, but not reacting with aggression. Then, slowly, it began to move. Long, smooth strides carried it away, its arms swinging naturally at its sides as it disappeared into the night. All around them, dogs erupted into barking, both from their home and nearby houses. But the creature made no sound at all. Years later, the witness would reflect on that moment differently. What once felt like terror shifted into something else entirely. The creature had known they were children. It had recognized their fear and chose not to escalate it. Its presence was overwhelming but controlled, almost deliberate in its restraint. Even now, the memory remains vivid, unchanged by time. Encounter number 2. The Silent Passing, Itasca County, Minnesota, 2016. It was one of those rare, perfect mornings in northern Minnesota. Clear skies, crisp air, and just enough warmth to make the woods feel alive. Sitting quietly in his deer stand around 10 a.m., the hunter was focused, alert, and running through the usual thoughts that come with waiting in stillness. Then the woods broke that silence. A loud crack echoed behind him, a branch snapping with enough force to immediately grab his attention. The sound came from about 25 yards back, near the trail he had used to walk in earlier that morning. Because of how his stand was positioned, thick branches blocked his view behind him, forcing him to rely only on sound. Moments later, he heard it again. Footsteps, slow, measured, soft, almost as if whatever was moving was trying not to be heard. He assumed it was a deer approaching along the trail and adjusted his position, carefully preparing for a shot. His mind shifted into hunting mode, running through expectations and possibilities, waiting for the animal to step into view. But nothing appeared. The forest went still again. Then, suddenly, he saw it. About 35 feet away, exactly where he expected a deer to emerge, a massive figure walked calmly along the trail, upright, covered in brownish dark hair, moving with a steady, unhurried pace. It wasn't a deer. It wasn't anything he had ever seen before. The creature didn't look toward him. It didn't react. It simply continued walking, as if it already knew he was there and didn't consider him a threat. For roughly 20 seconds, he watched in silence as it covered nearly 50 yards, its powerful legs and muscular frame moving with an efficiency that felt unnatural for something so large. The details stood out sharply: the thickness of its thighs, the definition in its calves, the sheer size of its body. He never saw its face, only its back as it moved away, disappearing over a ridge and down into a bog. At the same moment, a distant car could be heard approaching a nearby highway. The creature reacted subtly, lifting its head slightly, before increasing its pace just enough to vanish into the terrain. And then it was gone. What unsettled him most came afterward. As he sat there processing what he had just witnessed, a strange calm settled over him. Not fear, not panic, a quiet certainty that from somewhere in that bog, it might still be watching him. Even later, when he returned and measured the area, the estimated height came to around 7.5 feet tall, with physical evidence suggesting immense strength. Like the snapped top of a tree he had initially heard, the encounter remained clear, detailed, and unwavering in his memory. Encounter number 3. The Watcher in the Reeds. Ellis County, Texas, 1969. It was late in the day, just before dusk settled over the farmland near Sardis, Texas. 2 teenagers had driven out to a quiet pasture for something simple, a picnic near a pond surrounded by tall reeds. The area was rural, lightly populated and bordered by creeks and wooded patches that stretched into the distance. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then the dog reacted. The German Shepherd, calm moments before, began pacing aggressively, growling low in its throat. Its behavior escalated quickly, hair standing on end, body tense, barking in a way that neither of them had ever seen before. The shift was immediate and intense, as if the animal sensed something they couldn't yet see. That's when they looked toward the pond. Partially hidden behind the tall reeds, something was there. It stood upright, holding the reeds aside with one arm as it peeked through, watching them. The figure was large, heavily built through the chest and shoulders, with long arms hanging low, one extending nearly to its knees. Its body was covered in hair, and in the fading light, it appeared more as a dark silhouette than a fully detailed form. But its posture was unmistakable. It wasn't grazing, it wasn't wandering, it was observing. The stillness of it made the moment worse. It didn't move, didn't react, didn't make a sound. It simply watched them, hidden just enough to remain partially concealed while maintaining a clear view. The witness later described it as something between ape and human. Primitive, ancient, but undeniably aware. Fear took over quickly. They didn't wait to confirm anything. They grabbed what they could, ran for the car, and left the area immediately, the dog following behind. Even as they fled, the silence remained. No pursuit, no noise, just that lingering presence behind them. They never returned to investigate, and they never spoke about it again. Encounter number 4, the Midnight Stare Down, Denison, Ohio, 2000. It was just after 1 a.m. when he pulled onto his property, the night quiet and still with no external lighting beyond what he carried. After attending a baseball game earlier, he stepped out of his car and moved toward the trunk, beginning to unload his belongings. That's when he heard it. Movement behind him. Before he could turn fully, a deep, guttural growl cut through the darkness. It wasn't just heard, it was felt, vibrating through his chest like standing in front of a powerful bass speaker. The sound had no clear tone, no recognizable pattern, just raw, low-frequency intensity. He didn't stay to investigate. He got back into his vehicle and waited. After about 10 minutes, believing whatever had made the sound was gone, he stepped out again with his girlfriend and began walking toward the cabin. But as he rounded the side of the building, the encounter escalated instantly. There it was, standing roughly 30 feet away, beside a tree. A massive, upright figure covered in dark brown hair, fully visible in the beam of his flashlight. The face was partially exposed. No hair around the eyes, nose, or mouth. And when the light hit it, the eyes reflected back with a dark orange glow. For a brief second, they were face to face. No movement, no sound. Then the creature turned, smooth, fast, and ran off into the darkness, disappearing beyond the reach of the light almost instantly. The entire visual encounter lasted only a moment, but it was enough. The next day, measurements taken at the scene suggested a height of approximately 8 feet tall. But what stayed with him wasn't just what he saw. It was that growl, that deep, physical sound that seemed less like a warning and more like a declaration of presence. If you want, I can also create matching thumbnail titles, hooks, or cinematic scene prompts for each of these to keep your channel style consistent.